In the podcast, Ben Shapiro discusses the recent hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. The deal involves the release of 50 Israeli citizens, mostly women and children, who are being held by Hamas. The Israeli War Cabinet approved the deal, which will see the hostages released in batches of 12 or 13 per day. In exchange, Israel will pause its offensive against Hamas in the Gaza Strip for 6 hours daily in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. The deal also includes the release of 150 Palestinian terrorists who are women and minors, as well as allowing additional fuel into Gaza. The deal has sparked controversy in Israel, with some supporting the release of hostages as a priority, while others are concerned about the potential consequences of negotiating with terrorists. There are fears that hostage deals have historically been detrimental, citing the 2011 Gilad Shalit deal, in which Israel obtained the release of one kidnapped Israeli soldier from Hamas in return for the release of 1,027 prisoners, including those responsible for planning and perpetrating terrorism. The podcast also highlights the deceptive tactics of Hamas, including hiding weapons in mosques, hospitals, and even under baby cribs. Israel has released footage showing Hamas using civilian sites for military purposes, undermining the credibility of Hamas as a negotiating partner. The discussion also touches on the broader implications of the deal, including the impact on regional security and the potential for increased conflict if Hamas is left in place. The podcast also addresses the international response to the conflict, with countries like South Africa accusing Israel of genocide and Turkey planning to disrupt maritime trade to Israel. The potential consequences of a multipolar world and the impact on the American economy are also discussed, emphasizing the interconnectedness of global politics and the potential impact on everyday life. Shapiro then delves into the broader implications of the deal, highlighting the complex nature of foreign policy. He explains that foreign policy decisions have immediate impacts and emphasizes the need for a long-sighted approach to foreign policy, especially when dealing with dictatorships, as they have a first-mover advantage and can hold the line indefinitely. Shapiro also discusses the situation in Ukraine, where the issue is not whether Russia will win, but what an off-ramp looks like for Ukraine. He points out that America's interest in Ukraine is to preserve its independence against Russia and degrade the Russian military. However, he questions whether the U.S. should continue funding Ukraine if they are not capable of pushing the Russians out of Donbass or Crimea. The podcast also touches on the declining popularity of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party's strategy of redirecting attention to Donald Trump in an attempt to boost Biden's fortunes. Shapiro criticizes this strategy, pointing out that it may not be effective, as Trump's legal issues may not have a significant impact on public opinion. Furthermore, Shapiro discusses the White House's focus on transgender issues, particularly transgender victims of violence. He questions the validity of the claims that transgender people are routinely being beaten in the streets, pointing out that the statistics do not support this narrative. The podcast also covers the guilty pleas against the founder of Binance, the largest global cryptocurrency exchange, for violating U.S. anti-money laundering requirements. Shapiro questions the U.S. government's facilitation of transactions with sanctioned groups, such as the Iranian regime, while simultaneously going after Binance for similar violations.